TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin broadcast from Jerusalem. President Donald Trump publicly asserts that productive negotiations with Iran could end hostilities in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists that any agreement between the United States and the Ayatollah regime in Iran would ensure Israel's national security interests. Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz reveals Jerusalem's intentions against Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Ayatollah regime in Iran has engaged in diplomacy with the United States over the course of the past 3 days, aimed at achieving a negotiated resolution to the raging conflict in the Middle East, in what appears to be a desperate attempt to salvage what is left of the Islamist-fascist totalitarian regime in Iran. However, after President Trump made the talks public, Ayatollah regime officials incessantly sought to save face by insisting that the American leader was blatantly lying and that diplomacy was inherently off the table.
Mr. President, Iran's foreign ministry says you're not telling the truth when it comes to productive conversations.
Well, they're going to have to get themselves better public relations people. We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. Perhaps that hasn't been conveyed. The communication, as you know, has been blown to pieces. They're unable to talk to each other. But we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly. I would say that if they carry through with that, it'll end that problem, that conflict, and I think it'll end it very, very substantially. They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too. We're going to get together today by probably phone because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we just keep bombing our little hearts out.
The talks were held by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who claimed to be acting with Mujtaba Khamenei, the lately appointed supreme leader, consent and blessing. Nevertheless, to date, the IRGC-controlled Mujtaba Khamenei, who was not seen or heard of by anyone since the first day of the war, is not regarded by the United States as a genuine leader of the Ayatollah regime. And from President Trump's perspective, the decapitating of leadership in Iran should be construed as an effective regime change.
In all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for. Look at Venezuela, how well that's working out.
President Trump continued by highlighting that the negotiations would include Iranian guarantees to dismantle their nuclear weapons program and all enrichment, give the United States all of its enriched uranium stockpiles, and limit its ballistic missile program, among other demands, all of which were previously rejected by the Ayatollah regime before the war commenced. Essentially, if accepted, it would render a devastating defeat to the Ayatollah regime and would bring an end to its reign of terror throughout the region and beyond.
If this happens, it's a great start for Iran to build itself back, and it's everything that we want. And it's also great for Israel, and it's great for the other Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, all of them. We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and, I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to.
Meanwhile, in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a filmed statement following his phone conversation with President Donald Trump.
Earlier today, I spoke with our friend, President Trump. President Trump believes there is an opportunity to leverage the tremendous achievements we have reached alongside the U.S. military to realize the goals of the war through an agreement that will safeguard our vital interests. At the same time, we are continuing to strike in both Iran and Lebanon. We are smashing the missile program and the nuclear program, and we continue to deal severe blows to Hezbollah. Just a few days ago, we eliminated 2 more nuclear scientists, and we are still active. We will safeguard our vital interests under all circumstances.
It is important to know that while talks are taking place, U.S. Central Command and the IDF unceasingly persist in their joint systemic campaign to degrade the Ayatollah regime's capabilities, with hundreds of daily strikes eliminating weapons caches, missiles and UAV launchers, military infrastructure, and much more.
Our attacks across Iran are relentless. The Air Force is flying nonstop, 2,000 kilometers from the country's borders. So far, we have dropped over 10,000 munitions on thousands of targets throughout Iran. We have accurately hit their targets. We continue to attack all of the regime's systems and infrastructure, even when its operatives and commanders leave. The achievements of the last 3 weeks are adding up to a great achievement. The regime is weak, it is destabilized, and we will continue to strike it until our goals are achieved.
While the Ayatollah regime barely succeeds to launch less than half a dozen ballistic missiles a day towards Israel, with the majority of incoming projectiles successfully intercepted, the IDF is simultaneously also confronting Iran's terror proxy in Lebanon.
Regarding Lebanon, Hezbollah made a serious mistake when it attacked Israel as a tool of the Iranian terrorist regime, and it is paying and will pay a heavy price. The IDF continues, and will continue, to operate in Lebanon with full force against Hezbollah terrorists and against the missile launchers. The Lebanese government pledged to disarm Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and throughout Lebanon, and it did nothing. The IDF is maneuvering within Lebanese territory to seize a front line of defense, eliminating Hezbollah terrorists, and it is destroying the terrorist infrastructure that were established there, and the houses in the Lebanese border villages, which serve as terrorist outposts for all intents and purposes. This is conducted in accordance with the Rafah and Beit Hanal models in Gaza in order to create a defensive space and keep the threat away from the Israeli communities. I visited the north yesterday and spoke with the brigade commanders maneuvering in Lebanon and was impressed by their courage and determination. Hundreds of thousands of residents of southern Lebanon who evacuated north will not return south of the Litani River until security is guaranteed for the residents of the north. All 5 bridges over the Litani that Hezbollah used to transport terrorists and weapons have been blown up, and the IDF will control the remaining bridges and the security zone up to the Litani River. The principle is clear: if there is terror and missiles, there won't be homes and no residents, and the IDF will be deployed inside. We will not allow a return to the situation of October 7th. We promise to provide security to the residents of the north, and that is exactly what we will do.
It is important to highlight that the Iranian proxy Hezbollah has joined its masters in Tehran on March 2nd, launching hundreds of rockets and attack drones against civilian infrastructure throughout northern Israel, claiming the lives of a number of Israeli civilians. Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog, who visited the northern community of Kiryat Shmona that has been subject to repeated attacks, voiced Jerusalem's resolve to establish a forward-deployed security zone within Lebanese territory that will bring an end to direct attacks by Hezbollah.
This campaign is critical. It is clear to all of us that we can't go back to the same ceasefire situation from a year ago, because we must make sure that there's a strategic depth inside Lebanon, that there's what they call a buffer, a clear division, as well as to bring a geostrategic change that is part of a diplomatic negotiation in regard to Lebanon.
While the IDF's maneuver in Lebanon aims to guarantee the protection of civilian communities throughout northern Israel, French President Emmanuel Macron blatantly referred to Israel's defensive maneuvers as colonial and proclaimed his view that Lebanon's fight is just.
Aucune occupation, aucune forme de colonisation.
No occupation, no form of colonization, neither here, nor in the West Bank, nor anywhere else, can guarantee the security of anyone.
Le combat du Liban aujourd'hui,
Lebanon's fight today is just.
c'est se battre contre
It is to fight against all those who threaten its security or that of its neighbors.
justifie les attaques.
No one here justifies the attacks and terrorist movements.
Mais c'est ce message qui
But the message is that Lebanon alone must manage its problems and that nothing can justify actions that violate its territorial integrity and sovereignty.
viennent violer son intégrité territoriale, sa souveraineté.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.